Well, looks like we finally arrived at the game. The sole reason why I decided to cover two different franchises at the same time. Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. What a mouthful. Yeah, so the reason why I even bothered covering Professor Layton was because I remember the crossover existed. I first played the crossover after playing through the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, and that's all I can say about it. I thought it was quite insane in many ways. Like, what the hell is a puzzle? This was my first time playing a Professor Layton game, and my 6th Ace Attorney game. And now that I have finally experienced the other Professor Layton games and the knowledge that I have on Ace Attorney at the moment, I think it's time to revisit this 3DS exclusive game that never got ported to modern consoles. Well, to be fair, the Layton games also never got ported to modern consoles, even though they'd be the easiest games to port. These games would work so well by being point-and-click adventure games, minus the few quirks they decide to use from the DS and 3DS. I seriously don't understand what is Level 5 doing right now, besides becoming obsessed with AI somehow. Alright, here's how I'm gonna structure this video. Since this game is very much a Professor Layton game first, and then Ace Attorney game second, I'm gonna review what makes this game a Professor Layton game, aka the usual antics that I've come to expect from Layton. And then afterwards, I'm gonna review the Ace Attorney cases that are in this game like how I usually do. Some points will cross over, I think, with the other side and vice versa, maybe. Who knows? So this is gonna be an interesting video to make for me. With all that being said, spoiler warning, but this game kinda sucks. Let's talk about the Professor Layton side of this game. It's pretty much the plot, the puzzles, and everything else. Let's start with the puzzles. This game features 70 puzzles, the lowest amount of puzzles this series has seen yet. Listen, not every puzzle in the other games were winners, but I kinda like the abundance of puzzles that were in the earlier games. The amount of puzzles you do in this game is extremely low. That can be attributed to the fact that this game spends copious amounts of time having the characters yap my ear off. Even when I'm about to do a puzzle, they gotta write something that's happening to justify the puzzles or something. In the earlier Layton games, whenever we were about to do a puzzle, it didn't take that long to actually get started with it. But here, the amount of time spent waiting for the puzzle to begin is astronomical. Just let me do the goddamn thing. Like, you don't have to write funny quips and shit for every single time. Another thing that needs to be said about the puzzles in this game, and it's something that I've noticed starting with Spectra's Call. Why are the puzzles getting easier? Like, the puzzles were still moderately challenging to a certain degree in Spectra's Call, and it was the first game of the second trilogy, so it makes sense to not start too strong. But Miracle Mask's puzzles felt rather subdued, and this crossover's puzzles felt rather too easy at times. Don't get me wrong, there were some interesting puzzles at display here, but a majority of them are either puzzles you cannot fail, meaning you won't lose Pico Rats even if you don't get the answer right, or the puzzles are very brain dead. Even the hardest puzzles in this game feel like a cakewalk. I get it, Ace Attorney broskies were probably unfamiliar with the Layton IP, so the developers thought to not go and make the game too difficult, even though the Ace Attorney cases are pretty hard due to the amount of nonsense in them, so it's harder to make sense of them, but Layton fans are smart, they can figure it out. I don't know, I'm quite disappointed on these puzzles, they barely do anything interesting. Pretty much all of them don't require a lot of brain power, unless you're really stupid. The plot sucks. I'm not gonna beat around the bush. This is probably the lamest story we've ever seen from Professor Layton yet. Let's start with the premise. This is the coolest premise for a Layton story. Professor Layton is finally delving into the fantastical world of witchcraft and magic and whatnot. Sign me up! And yeah, for the most part, the game delivers on that promise. Seeing magical incantations being thrown left and right, all these witches, the witch trials, this fantastical medieval world with this pretty big town full of living people living their lives in a very old-timey fashion. This is great! Until you remember the final twist, then it's no longer great. In fact, it's quite bad. The final twist of this game is the fact that magic is not real in any capacity, which is weird because this is the same series where a giant prehistoric dinosaur or something like that exists in the modern world. Heck, time travel is an actual thing in this series. For a brief moment, that is. So why the hell magic is an impossible thing? In fact, most of my complaints that I have about this game would have been nullified if they just made magic real. Never mind the fact that this replay was extremely boring and mind-numberingly unbearable, therefore the entire game suffers from it because anything that happens in these chapters is nothing more but an illusion. Well, okay, Sherlock, you explained 2 magic spells and how they function. Do you mind telling me how a magic spell like Go Door actually works? And for those that don't remember, Godor is a spell that's made on green walls specifically to open a portal between walls. How did any of the stuff that happened during London even happen? Labyrinthia and London are two completely different locations. London takes place in the real world, quote unquote. So again, how does magic not being real make any sense of that? How did Layton, Luke, Phoenix, and Maya get transported in Labyrinthia by getting sucked into the book as was shown in the cutscenes? How do you explain literally anything? See, this is why I find this conclusion lame as fuck. Because it's a boring answer, first of all, and second of all, it undermines the entire rest of the game. It's not a satisfying conclusion, more like a cop-out. Actually, the way we find out the entire town is controlled by machines is through Layton and Phoenix saying a magical incantation, and suddenly everyone can see Labyrinthia for what it actually is. Would you care to explain this to my monkey brain full of holes? No? You know, I can actually explain one of the tricks. I actually worked on this game. Yeah, I know. 2012 was kind of crazy for me. Anyways, the book that sucks you into the story trick. So basically, the book was actually a LED screen filled with Fenth, and the Ace Attorney characters, they got brainwashed to think they've been living in Labyrinthia for 5 years at that point. Layton didn't suffer any amnesia because he's a regular consumer of Fenth. Anyone would know this info because it came straight from the game Professor Layton and the Fenth Factory. Get your facts straight, people. Okay, well, the big twist sucks. Anything else? Yeah, I don't think the way the characters that are active in the story have been used properly, like, at all. Zacharias Barham is the main rival in the witch trials, and he shines in those trials, but outside the witch trials, he kinda just does nothing. Like, yeah, he goes out of his way to help Phoenix, Luke, and Espella to escape from the mob in chapter 5, and apparently went into an undercover mission of sorts later, and then promptly got jailed at the end. That's still not a whole lot. His entire character outside the trials is him questioning what the hell is happening with the story and Darklaw and Storyteller, or just being the kind-hearted knight that he is. Even when we discover him in the woods where all the shades live, he still does nothing. Like his mission was to do something and then fail because the Great Witch used a spell on him. After that, I don't know, he just promptly gets discarded from the narrative. The Storyteller has to be the funniest villain I have ever seen in my entire life because of how painfully stupid he is. Like, the entire reason this plot even exists is because of a major speaking mistake. Bro failed the quick time events. I'm not even entirely sure what did Arthur think he would accomplish from all of this. Also, his entire explanation and background and whatnot are very boring. I guess that's just a general problem of this game going down the scientific route a bit too much, because not everything has to be science and have logical explanations and whatnot. Just lose yourself a bit. Also, I find it very funny storyteller's shtick, that being writing the story, is being called into question many times. Unfortunately, game, I already thought this guy was a LARPer in writing by the time you decided to call him a poser. Therefore, I'll take all the credit. And then my daughter got mauled by every peasant in the town because she dared identify as a witch. Finn. How the fuck did he not realize the story got changed? Like, someone had to write that shit. Do you not recognize your handwriting? And when the handwriting in that book is not actually your handwriting, you numpty? Also, his design is kind of generic in my opinion. I bet the only reason why they went with the owl theme is because, owls symbolize wisdom or whatever, I don't know. Overall, I do feel mixed on the storyteller, but due to his stupidity, I can have some enjoyment in this mess of a game because I kind of like how stupid he is. He's just a silly guy, leave him alone. Darklaw? Meh. She's very boring. At no point did I think she was a memorable character, nor do I remember any cool shit she does in the game. She kinda just exists for the entire game until the final witch trial, where the game suddenly tries to make her relevant as fuck, even though she has been doing nothing the entire game. Even in the actual trial, she didn't really say anything that knocked my socks off or made interesting arguments, unlike my go-to. And honestly, the town of Labyrinthia, very lame. At this point, the idea of fake town, or a town that's not what it actually seems like, is a tired idea. The first trilogy already abused the hell out of that idea, so it kinda just makes Labyrinthia look quite uninspired and not that interesting. Like, at all. Again, like I said, if magic was real, then Labyrinthia would have been the most unique location we have explored yet. Because there's lots of things around here that are cool. Like, the entire town looks pretty neat, the locations we explore are pretty detailed, there are some unique locations as well that give completely different vibes. All pointless because, again, this town is fake. Everything here is artificial. Makes one wonder why they even bothered to do it like this. And the worst part about all of this is that they didn't even bother making special minigames for this game. Listen man, I know in my earlier videos I kept forgetting about them and only made a dinky ass review for all of them, that these minigames can be hit or miss, but like, they were a core part of Layton's identity. It's part of what makes a Professor Layton game a Professor Layton game. So now this game has an UI that serves no purpose other than to be reminded by story beats that happen in the game or to save the game at any time. That's it. I was honestly shocked there were no minigames for whatever reason. But do you know what this game has? Talk options, baby! Woo! I'm back in the fucking building again. Time to shit talk my favorite mid-franchise ever made. Ace Attorney, baby. You know what? Let's just get this out of the way. So, overall, I'd say they did a good enough job adapting the Ace Attorney formula in this game, even the worst aspect of said series. I have no idea why talk options are even a thing in this game. In fact, I don't know why they bothered. There's only like 3 moments where you click through talk options and read pointless ass dialogue. Why does this even exist in this game? Nobody needs this. The talk options are only available in the early chapters at select points. I just remember that after chapter 3, talk options just disappear from this game. The characters can actually talk like normal fucking people instead of listening to them yap for 2 centuries. So again, I have to ask this, but why did they even bother doing this? Literally the biggest aspect of Ace Attorney, that being investigating crime scenes. That's the one thing you don't bother adapting in this game, but fucking talk options somehow made it into the final product. The only instance where you actually do investigate a crime scene is only for the final case, where you investigate this one floor in this big ass bell tower, and even then it's like 5 minutes long, and before anyone says, but what about the building residents? Really? The crime happened while we were there, and even then we don't investigate anything that happened after the crime. We only investigate what the house. I don't see any crimes here that are being investigated by yours truly. Listen, investigations in this series are pretty hit or miss. Even though they came up with like the best solution to make investigations good, but I digress. There's nothing but trials in this household, and listen, I like the trials better, but investigations added a bit more variety, because staring at nothing but courtroom walls is gonna get old real quick, even though the cases were good. Thankfully that's not the case here, since these trials have their own dedicated chapter, and that's kinda it. But it really makes me miss the investigations that we've done in the actual series. Oh well, even if we only have trials here, we still have cases to comment on. So let's see if these cases actually measure up, if they're well written, and if they have anything going for them. Really? English Turnabout? Not even the English Turnabout? I never complain about any of these cases titles, but this one doesn't really roll off the tongue that well. So Phoenix and Maya are in Britain because of the legal exchange whatever, bro. They don't really matter, and they won't matter after this because they cease to exist after this game. Unfortunately, not even during their holiday breaks can they even catch a break, and instead they get dragged in a trial inside a British courtroom that doesn't seem to be any other different than the courtrooms from his country. So what is this case about? Well, it's not a murder case for once. Instead, we defend Espella Cantabella from the charges of assault and theft. This is the only case in this game where Phoenix does by the numbers trial, whereas the rest of the cases all center around witchcraft. I never really liked this, because here's the thing. Sure, this case is the most Ace Attorney case that a case can be, but that means that whatever the next case will do will still have to feature plenty of tutorials, because the concept of witch trials is a new thing for everyone, and I feel like because this is a normal trial, it kinda just takes a while to get to the actual thing the game wants to spend time on. But enough about that. What about the case itself? It's fine. It's in no way a bad case by any means, but I don't think it's good. It's somewhere around the middle. I always thought there were 5 testimonies in this case, but this only features 4 testimonies. Huh, so what do we have here? A security guard that pretends to be a professional, a 6-month-old professional security guard to be exact, and the victim, a chef working at the ship. The case takes place inside the transport ship that transports cargo, duh, where allegedly Espella tried to steal one of the plushies inside the cargo and then got caught and pretty much bonked the victim in the back of her head. She actually survived this. The first 2 testimonies belong to Johnny Smiles, not even a pun or anything, he's just a really happy fella. His first testimony is weird. You have to press the last statement, then get the crime scene photo, and then object with it on the last statement. And the objection is about how this crate here in the corner looks weird because it's open. How do you know that's related to this incident? I understand that they try to teach every relevant mechanic from Ace Attorney for the Layton fans. So yes, they gotta showcase how pressing works, but why couldn't the first testimony be about the witness doing a basic detail fuck up? That's exactly what they did in the first ever case made for the series, which is exactly what they do for Johnny's next testimony. So this guy is unreliable. Next up we have the victim, Olivia Al Dente. Olivia's first testimony is extremely strange. The form of the contradiction is in this statement that states Espella swung the pipe fiercely at her, and this fits into the category of weird ass contradictions that you have to interpret. You see, you have to interpret the fiercely swung the pipe at me as in she couldn't swing the pipe in front of her over her head, even though at no point did she ever say anything like that in her testimony. So basically Phoenix is making shit up. That's great. And you know, I noticed this case in general is such a complicated ass case for new people, especially for Layton fans that wouldn't be familiar with Ace Attorney. In fact, Olivia kinda just explained why the objection doesn't really work the way the game expected it to work. Pretty daring of them to explain why the game mechanic didn't work as intended. You know, this would have been fine if she said she swung the pipe over my head or something like that. I'm telling you, Ace Attorney kinda struggles with the writing many times. This is one of many examples. Her last testimony sucks. And that's pretty much it. I do like that prosecutor Flinch gives a good answer at one point in this case. That was pretty good. And the discussion where everyone is debating about the existence of fingerprints on the pipe was cool, and I kinda wish the case leaned more into that. It's evident the writers kinda got bored of this case, so instead they rushed to a resolution by having Phoenix say Olivia is actually a jewel thief that was talked about in this one newspaper article because he said so. This is such a complicated first case. I wouldn't be surprised if anyone got stuck in this one. Not me though. I never got stuck when I first played this because I'm an epic pro gamer. Also, because this is a Layton game, they do Layton game things, such as giving characters voices and have certain lines of dialogue voice acted. Therefore, Phoenix and Maya both have voices in this game. I kinda like Phoenix's. I think he sounds okay, and he does show some range across the game, even though I still think Eric Vale is the supreme Phoenix voice. Yes, the anime English dub VA is the best one, sue me. On the other hand, Maya's VA sounds terrible in pretty much every line read except for the ones where the character has more intense reactions. Every other line is read exactly the same, like the same bored as fuck flat tone. In the cutscenes, she shows some slight changes in tone and stuff, but overall, not a fan. I'm also not a fan of how much the pursuit theme is spammed in this case. It seems like the pursuit theme was playing every 5 seconds by the end of the case. I was tired of this song blasting my ears. So overall, fine enough case, too complicated for being a tutorial case. Also features minor inconveniences, and the logic isn't as strong as it could have been.
What is this heat? It's like an oven in here.
I will now pronounce the verdict. This court finds the accused guilty of being a witch.
No, I'm not a witch! Please, I beg you to reconsider! I'm not...
Witches are to be cast straight into the hellfire!
What?
No!
So, this is the witch's court.
That is the most effective way to introduce the witch trials. I love this cutscene so much. In retrospect, it's kind of funny that later on Phoenix acts a bit concerned on what executing the witch actually entails. Makes sense for Laytons to react that way, but dude, you literally saw a witch burned to death not so long ago. As for the case itself, I remember going into this case pretty excited because I had this recollection of case 2 being the best case in the game, and the better case ever made overall. I have learned to ignore such naysayings. My entire feelings regarding this case relied on my vague memory filling in the blanks, because this case is bad. It starts alright, I think the first half is the strongest, but the second half is a shit show in many ways. I'm surprised that people writing this didn't think that they were writing some bullshit of the highest caliber. Like, okay, I can say all I want that the first half is a bit strange, but ultimately it's fine at the end of the day. The second half is when Phoenix starts to reality bend his way to victory. He saw Edgeworth pull this trick many a times in his games and thought, well, why not give it a shot? So what this results in is a case that's kind of a mess. This case has so many tutorials, understandable because this case introduces a bunch of courtroom mechanics, but it gets to a point when you're in the middle of a climactic bit during the trial, and then Layton comes in to give you a tutorial on how to compare witness testimonies and find contradictions that way. Thanks, Layton. Maybe read the room next time. So we have a bunch of new mechanics here. The Grand Grimoire, exclusive to this game for obvious reasons, it's pretty much exactly like the evidence in the courtroom except it's magical spells. And when the game demands you use it, you use it. They make it abundantly clear when to do it. Not the most unique mechanic, in fact it's just the same thing presented differently, but the fact that it's all magic spells gives some flair to it. Questioning is actually useless, it's just pressing 2.0. The first time we used that mechanic is to break a testimony. We didn't even object with evidence or anything. We pressed past the testimony for no reason. They did not even use this mechanic right. It sucks. And the way they continue to use this mechanic is genuinely infuriating because it's not like you use your brain to figure out the puzzle. You can't just slide the screen to someone else and then press a button. I like the explanation for why the mechanic exists, that being because these witch trials feature multiple witnesses at the witness stand. Everyone is listening on each other's testimony. That's pretty neat. Unfortunately, it doesn't save it from its dogshit execution. There are fake out reactions that can happen from said witnesses, like these guys just decide to randomly react for no apparent reason. Ah yes, make the bad game mechanic even worse. Lastly, we have, I don't know if this one has a name, I just call it comparing witness testimonies, CWT for short. It's just a way to find a contradiction, not by using evidence but by using witness statements, and I find this mechanic cool. Would have been cooler if they used it more than once per case. They made an entire UI for no reason other than to be used for 5 seconds. I cannot believe this. Obviously, the best usages of these mechanics are actually found in case 2, and I already stated that this case is bad, so whoops! Alright, let's finally talk about the case. There were some contradictions that didn't work. The first one, for example, I get the idea that they went with, but the execution is awful. You see, the real objection should have been about Naito's first part of his statement being that there was no fire in the area, even though there was a lamp right there. Hell, a fire explosion spell was used. You would think there would be traces of a fire happening there, but instead, Phoenix tackled his second part of the statement, that being magic must have been used instead. What? Oh yeah, for some reason they made Phoenix semi-amnesiac when they got to Labyrinthia, and they have to solve this plot thread in this case. Makes one wonder why they even made them amnesiac in the first place. There were many arguments Phoenix made that amounted to nothing more than because I said so. There was this one contradiction where the explanation was Phoenix can't imagine Espella holding the lamp and the staff at the same time. I believe him, but what if someone else finds that theory conceivable? Why would you design such contradictions in your detective game? That's kinda bad game design. I hate how much control Layton has over the trial. Bro is looking up game facts mid-trial and spelling out what I have to do, aka what Phoenix has to do. Bro thinks he's part of the team. In many ways, Layton just undermines Phoenix a lot. And not only him, but the game kinda makes Phoenix a bit incompetent so that Layton can get his moments, which I don't like at all. I feel like by resorting to these tricks, you're kinda doing a disservice to your characters. You make Phoenix look idiotic and you make Layton look fake as fuck. Also, what you just heard was logic. Proceeds to get destroyed by Barnham a second later. I don't even get that lineup. Earlier, these guys used logic against Phoenix during the first testimony. Logic is a concept that existed for a long time. What was the point of trying to hype up Herschel Layton this way? They just made him look like a dumbass. Even more so when Barnham makes the best fucking argument ever mere moments later. They tried to give Layton aura but tremendously failed. Zacharias Barnham, like I said, outside the witch trials, bro is barely a character, but inside the witch trials, bro makes some unfathomably based arguments at times, and I love him for that. I've been sleeping on this guy for a good while. We stand Barnham in this household. He's too good for this game, I'm afraid. But even then, Barnham isn't really that invested in this trial. Many times he just shits on his witnesses and always seems like he's trying to lose intentionally. He even made a point about the sketch containing inaccuracies. Crime scene sketch that we spent pretty much the entire first half of the case debating over got shredded into nothingness for virtually no reason. Kira as a culprit straight up sucks. She's actually so stupid it hurts. Bro committed a crime, and instead of running away from there while invisible, she lost her glasses right then and there and spent some time looking for them. Bro, you can get another pair of glasses, I assume. Just say that you lost your glasses some time ago. Who the fuck is gonna call you a liar? And the way we find out about this information is also through Phoenix reality bending his way to victory. Her motive was to put a stop to these witch trials, so she framed Espella Cantabella, aka the Great Witch Bazilla, according to her. Then why not just kill Espella straight up? She was being attacked by 2 rogues. The hell was she gonna do? She can't focus on 2 things at the same time. Also, the goat, some guy shows up at this case and then gets put into a bad situation. Not my goat, some guy! I really don't understand why Amir changed his testimony here when he was correct. He was right. Emir was right. You know, for all its faults, I like the scene where the witnesses fight each other even though you haven't done anything to receive such a great scene. Anyways, I think I've said enough about the case. So how about we instead discuss about the irrelevant things from the prologue after the trial is over. These are part of the case. They put talk options at the end of the case. Buddy, are you guys not giving us any breathers? Did you not see what kind of a trial you guys went through? So everything in that trial hit like nothing because it's undermined by the literal ending bit where they talk about shit that doesn't matter at this point. Like, bro, the case is over. Just put the case in the back, bro. This should be quick. I don't have much to say about this case, other than it's infinitely worse than case 2 somehow. This case tackles 2 cases, a present case and an old case. The present case has Layton be the victim and Maya as the defendant, except this entire part just rushed to hell and back. I only did one objection that was wrong. Why the fuck do we trust Miss Primstone? Update the evidence based on her testimony and go ahead and say Luke is wrong. Oh yeah, Luke is in this game. He exists. The rest of the testimonies was just us using the questioning mechanic. So basically we pressed our way to victory. There was this big moment where the parrot testified about what he heard. Do you guys remember Turnabout goodbyes? Phoenix cross-examined the parrot there, so wanna do it again. It's so funny, guys. Did you know that an actual parrot testified in an actual murder case? Huh, I bet you didn't know that. Stupid. Anyways, the parrot did a misspell and then we checked the gems to see if they're real or not. So they found a way to use forensics RNG in a medieval setting. Good for them, I guess. That's the entire Layton case. I am not even exaggerating when I say this is it. That's all that happens here. We accuse the butler, and then Phoenix says random shit, and then the butler confesses she's a girl and not a boy. Alright, so let's talk about the Newton Beltuke case. The case they wanted us to play through. Apparently they didn't give a fuck. Some random bullshit happens, and then I don't know, they just gave up and have Jean confess she's the witch. Why did she do that? Because we used the witness testimony thinking and found a contradiction with Mailer's testimony, and that was enough apparently. And then the case keeps going on and on and on and on, ultimately ending with Espella Cantabella confessing she's the great witch and then getting ready to be burned alive, only to suddenly not want that to happen to her, despite her earlier monologue. I have never felt this lifeless while playing a video game. Nothing in this case worked. It was a shit show from start to finish. Questioning continues to be awful. I cannot believe they actually killed Layton and Maya. These guys gotta be slapped over their balls due to how ballsy they are. Like, imagine Professor Layton and Maya actually dying. What a concept. Are you fucking with me, game? What is this crap? Or did you write this and not stop yourself at any point and realize how fucking dumb it is? And how nonsense it is? Did nobody making this case use their brains to come up with a compelling mystery? Because nothing in this case actually worked, like, at all. At least with the investigations cases, they have moments where I can see the vision and there are signs those cases can work. This one does not work from start to finish. I am depressed. I want to talk about my Pucci, Sakura as Barham. He should have killed Phoenix at one point in this. He basically exposed Phoenix for the liar he is. Wow, Phoenix, you're gonna let him do that to you? Huh? Pussy? At the start, bro literally told Phoenix the equivalent of, you mad, bro? God, I love Barham and I love Emir so much. It's so hard being great characters stuck in such a fraud game. Let's just hope the next case is better. Oh yeah, Barham's character arc started in this case and ended in this case. And afterwards he proceeds to hunt the Great Witch and then go to jail. Nice ending to his character. Can you write some more bullshit? Finally, we reached the final case, and why does this case span 3 chapters? That's a little ridiculous at how segmented this case is. Especially since not a whole lot happens in it. In fact, the case can be separated into 2 halves. The first half is like the beginning with Espella first testifying about what happened, and that's kinda it. Of course, this entire testimony is pretty much pressing 3.0. You can't just do random stuff until the cat shows up at the witness stand for whatever reason, and then the solution is to slide the screen over the cat and then question the cat. Even though at no point in this entire game did they ever have a moment where we questioned a person who didn't react at all. So I have no idea how they thought the player would intuitively figure that out. The only reason I did it was more or less as a joke. and then it worked and I was befuddled. But whatever, man, that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the fact that they put 10 different witnesses on the witness stand and have you question everyone. I don't care what anyone has to say about this. This is so unapologetically ridiculous. I can't help but laugh. What do you say to 10 people on the witness stand? This is hilarious in many ways. That also means questioning is at its worst. Yeah, there are objections and shit and everything, but the only reason you get past all of this is by playing ping pong with questioning. This is very bad. It's so overwhelming, you don't even know where to begin. They do drop hints here and there, but they're not particularly helpful. The only reason I got through these testimonies is by using hint coins. Yes, I'm a fraud. I'm so sorry, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not smart. Not because I was over this game at this point and just wanted to go home. No. It's because cross-examining 10 people is a bit too much. Yeah. That's it. That's my reason. That's the reason. Both are true. And that's pretty much the entire first half. Unless you want to include the fact that the Kira and Darklaw testimonies in the first half, then fine, have at it. I don't know, I kind of zoned out during this part. Not even the fact that Layton takes the role of the Inquisitor, gained much reaction from me. Putting the verses in Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. They're fine testimonies, and then the second half is just everything that happens after a storyteller shows up. You just plot bullshit. What am I supposed to say when the mysteries here are just plot? Meaning that it's kind of obvious what they are driving at. I kind of like the idea of puzzles mid-trial, that's neat, but otherwise, this is quite a forgetful final case all things considered. And then the game ends, everyone is happy, magic is not real, yada yada yada. And that's Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney. For some reason, I seem to have this feeling that I'm missing something. Like, I forgot to actually talk about something specific. If I forgot about it, then it wasn't all that important. Alright, fine. I loathe Espella Cantabella. She's the worst part about this game from start to finish. Who is Espella Cantabella? Just this random girl who happens to be the storyteller's daughter and has the personality of a cardboard cutout. She only exists to be like, I am the great witch Bazella Bella Skibbity Toilet Ohio Riz, and I deserve to get torched alive. Even though there's no proof of her ever being the great witch beyond I remember Fire Dragon, the fire dragon that destroyed the town 100 years ago. My main point is, you already have Labyrinthia. Is that not enough? Why have Espella here? Why have the entire narrative jerk off this 18-year-old into every single little thing about the story? Why does she truly matter? And most importantly, why should I care? At no point did the game establish any of these. Never mind why you should care about Espella. And oh my god, this character's pretty useless. Like, there's nothing interesting about her. Nor does she do anything interesting. The only reason she is around is to have us worry about the Great Witch Bazella, which... Really? Bazella? I'm quacking in my boots. She kinda got Maya Fey killed, quote unquote, by being the ultimate pussy and not put her foot down on things she said. Like, girl literally gives a full-on monologue about how she's the Great Witch Bazella and the terrible things she has done, and encourages everyone to burn her alive to maybe save Jean Grail and have her be normal again. Again, I don't get why she thinks that, but okay. And then the entire scene happens and Maya dies. This was the most frustrating cutscene I have ever seen in my entire life, and it was because of Espella Cantabella. I don't even care that much about Maya Fey, and I was still mad when I saw her getting locked up in the cage. I also hate how much the cast likes to assure her that everything is okay. Espella, you have done nothing wrong, you're just a misunderstood little being. Holy meat writing, guys. Like, seriously, what is up with everyone just gassing up this random girl that they barely know but are super sure she can do no harm? I also really hate her voice. Like, no shade to the voice actor, I'm sure they're a great person, and from my research, she seems to be a veteran in the industry. But I just don't like the voice direction they went with Espella. I don't know, she kinda sounds a little jarring at times. Which could be a me thing. Also, why the hell does she sound like she's voiced by someone else when she does the puzzle solve victory animation?
Anything you could want to know about Labyrinthia can be found in this book. Oh, how exciting! I'm so glad I was able to help.
I'm sorry, that's not the same person voice acting these lines. What are we doing here? Also, man, I find the entire thing so unbelievable. I'm sorry, kids aren't that stupid. But okay, sure, maybe I'm just too unimpressed at this point and don't really believe a 6-year-old would actually believe she summoned a fire dragon, therefore she's Bazella. But as a teenager, you never stop to question your memories. In fact, at no point does she question the flashes that are happening inside her head. She kinda just trusts those and immediately assumes she's the Great Witch. And I don't get why it took this long to come to the realization that she couldn't be the one to ring the bell when it was obvious as hell. Honestly, I'm more surprised Darklaw didn't realize she was the one who rang the bell. I'm not shocked to report that Arthur didn't think Espella rang the bell because Darklaw didn't have the eyes of a liar. What? Who cares? I fucking hate all of these characters. They suck ass and I don't want to see them ever again. God help me. Everyone is happy and rainbows and sunshine. And no other crime has ever been committed ever since. Crimes have been ended. It's the end. Is there anything else I want to talk about? No, I think that's all. Finally! Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney is an interesting little experiment, and I do wish we had more crossover games like this. Only fighting games get to have this treatment nowadays, which makes me a little sad. Now, I'm not gonna say that, oh, because the game is bad, that means the two IPs are way too different, therefore whatever they made just fundamentally doesn't work. No, I think that's the point of crossovers. More so, I feel like the reason this crossover sucked was because the game itself sucks. The story is rough, the characters are not that great, the cases are bad, but then again that's like on another Tuesday for Ace Attorney. Labyrinthia is not that interesting in retrospect. The fact that witchcraft can only be used by women really limited them when making the cases, I feel. The twists are lame. Man, this entire game is lame. I feel like I wouldn't go as hard into this game as I did if they did make magic a real thing. Like, in this land, you can practice magic and magic is an actual thing that exists. A good chunk of my complaints would disappear if that was the case. Unfortunately, we don't live in this reality. Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney could have been a heck of a lot more better than it ended up being. But because of silly decisions that went into the making of this game, we ended up with a game that's mildly interesting on a first playthrough and extremely dull and boring to sit through on a second playthrough. That's all I have to say. Kinda crazy, I finally got to the reason I decided to do this in the first place. Only 2 more Layton games to go, and 4 more Ace Attorney games left to sit through, Jesus Christ. Well, I'll see you next time with my Azeron Legacy review. Let's see how they managed to end off the second trilogy. So anyways, that's all I have for you today. Now, I'm gonna be very busy. I'm gonna go hang out with my goth librarian baddie girlfriend. We're gonna do some private matters, if you catch my drift. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day.